Greetings, inhabitants of the extended plane. Back again for another video. Wanted to clear up a couple of things from my last video that I didn't make too clear. Some people say I don't really understand the perspective of the globe and the distance of the sun and the moon and all this. So I'm going to hit this pretty quick. My claim was that you can't possibly see a full moon in the middle of the day according to the official model that they say has got to happen in order for you to see a full moon. Also, that there is also no way possible that you would be able to see the lunar eclipse with both the sun and the moon visible in the sky at the same time. So, I am going to employ some visual aids for your dancing and dining pleasures. And here we go. According to the official diagram of how you're supposed to be able to see the phases of the moon, the only way that you should be able to see a full moon would be when the moon is in the midnight position and the sun is at the noon position directly across the alleged globe Earth. Now, I have reduced the size of the sun to the size of the moon because I want to give the proper visual perspective, you know, from a solar eclipse, that these two appear to be the same size in the sky. I have drawn this line in order to show that this would be from, in this case, the dusk position would be the same as dawn. On the other side, this is the only phases of the moon that you could possibly see from this position according to the official model. You should never be able to see a full moon during the daytime and the sun at the same time. There's just no way possible, nor would you be able to see an eclipse at this time of day. Okay, this is the official diagram of what a lunar eclipse is supposed to look like. I would argue against this diagram on one point, the moon being, or the sun, excuse me, being 93 million miles away would have the same visual perspective in my mind as the moon, being that size instead of this huge size. Moved that far away, these lines of light, I believe, would be altered. But hey, we'll go with their diagram. That's all we got to go with. It still doesn't work. Here's the sun. Here's the earth. Here's the moon in the shadow of the earth. That is the only time of day that this can happen. And people are arguing that you should be able to see over the curve of the earth and see the moon and the sun at the same time at dusk or dawn, depending on which end of the earth you're supposed to be standing upside down on. So, nobody's taking my word for it, so let's ask Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. What do you think, Neil? Would we be able to see over the curve of the earth from our perspective, standing on top of a ball?
Once and for all. The earth looks flat because, one, you're not far enough away at your size. Two, your size isn't large enough relative to earth to notice any curvature at all.
All right, thanks, Neil. I appreciate you having my back on this one. Almost makes me want to take back some of the nasty stuff that I'm going to say about you here in the near future. So, unless you think you got x-ray vision, and this isn't really a t-shirt, I don't believe you're going to be able to see the lunar eclipse or a full moon, according to the official diagram, during the daytime. Not going to happen. Got it? So, this picture of the full moon in the middle of the daytime, according to the official model, is not possible. This picture of the full moon in the daytime should not be possible. Neither should this one. or this one, or this one. I hope I have cleared up any confusion on this matter, and we can lay it to rest now. Okay, this is a still shot from Cahokia Mounds. I want to cover the lunar eclipse real quickly. This was taken December 10th, 2011. It is part of a short video that a couple took. And this is supposed to be a lunar eclipse with the sun coming up. And the shadow is actually getting greater, and it is coming down from the top. Okay, a little lesson on perspective here. If the sun is coming up and the earth is casting a shadow on the moon to cause this little curve here, first of all, the shadow should be coming up from the bottom and not down from the top. And as the earth is causing less obstruction between the light of the sun and the surface of the moon, the shadow should not be getting greater, it should be getting less. And I'm sorry, this just absolutely disproves any contention that this little curve up here has anything to do with the shadow of the earth, or that the official explanation for full moons and eclipses has any validity to it at all. It does not. It has absolutely no validity. I'm showing a little bit of this video just to show what I'm talking about, so you can see that this shadow is coming down from the top. It's getting greater instead of less. I don't want you to think I just pulled something off the internet and throwing some explanation out here for it. This is actually what was filmed. Now, if this is correct, and I believe it is, this isn't some flat Earth dude. He's just out catching a lunar eclipse. If this is the truth about what's happening, then their explanation is a complete and total lie. There is no way you're going to get a shadow coming down and getting greater as the light in the sky is getting greater, and the only thing to cast a shadow is coming from the bottom, or should be coming from the bottom up. It's absolutely ridiculous to believe the official explanation. You can argue about it if you want, but there's no way to debunk this. There's no way to debunk it. Not if you've got two brain cells that can still talk to each other. So I am of the belief at this point that the moon gives off her own light, just as it says in the Bible. The sun is the light for the day. The moon is the light for the night. Yes, you might be able to, I think you see the sun rules over the day and the moon over the night. You might be able to say, well, you can see the moon sometimes during the day, but the predominant light in the sky during the day, the ruler, if you will, would be the sun, just as the stars give off light, but the predominant light at night is the moon. So I'm going to give one more little bit of proof, because I know there's still going to be some doubters out there. This little device here is a infrared thermometer that you just kind of point and shoot. Currently, the monitor is 91 degrees. You can point it at whatever surface that you want, and it'll tell you the temperature of that surface. I say that to say this: Moonlight is actually colder than the shade, whereas sunlight, a sunlit surface, is hotter than in the shade. A moonlit surface is colder than in the shade. Now, I had heard this and I had seen the experiments. I didn't want to make a video claiming this was true until I actually bought one of these things and tried it for myself, and sure enough, consistently, the moonlight is colder than in the shade. I'm talking, I've gotten as much as 8 degrees personally, and that was at a near full moon. So checked it on many different surfaces. I was careful to get it after midnight, so the sun, the warmth of the sun was no longer a factor in the surfaces, and it's been very, very consistent. I do want to. I don't have the video equipment to film at night, so I was unable to film it. But I do want to show you a clip of someone who did have the equipment and did film it. And by all means, buy or borrow one of these little infrared thermometers and do this for yourself. This is something that you can do. Have you ever wondered, like on a 34, 35 degree morning, that you go out to your car thinking there's not going to be any frost on it, but your car was sitting out in the moonlight and there was frost on the surface of that car when it wasn't even cold enough. The air temperature wasn't cold enough to freeze. So think about that and watch this.
Centec infrared thermometer. You basically point it at something, it's got a laser, and it tells you the color temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit. So right now this screen is 73.4 degrees. So he says, let me show you something. It was a half moon outside, nice bright half moon, clear night, and the moon is shining down on the building, casting a shadow on the parking lot. So he tests the shadow, and it was like 40 degrees, let's say. He goes, now let me show you something else. Went a few feet over where the shadow had ended, and we're looking at direct moonlight, and it was 30 degrees.
The shade of the moon.
So that's the shade. In the shade, it's 39 degrees.
And then you go to the moonlight, and you got 32.
32.
Wow.
Or 33, 32, 33.
Is it more dramatic when it gets darker?
It seems to be more dramatic when the moon is fullest.
So the moon, like on a full moon,
Like the fullest
in a completely
moon,
dark
I'm getting
night.
sometimes 12 degrees.
12 degrees. So
Yeah.
the more full the moon is, the cooler it is?
It seems to be.
It's a half moon right now.
I mean, don't ask me why, because I don't know. But I know it works every time I've tried it, everywhere I've tried it. Don't matter if I'm at the ranch or at shallow water. Or went over to my 85-year-old uncle's house and did it in his front yard, and he made me go buy him one.
It was colder in the direct moonlight than it was in the shadow of the moon. Now, when you go outside and test direct sunlight and then test the shadow is about 10 to 20 degrees cooler. It's the exact opposite. This is called empirical evidence. This is called science, where you can actually do testable, observable, repeatable, things, observations. Now, we're all told that the moon is a reflector of the sun. How does that work if the moon is literally giving off cold light that's warmer in the shadows cast by the moonlight?
Well, now, isn't that rather interesting? We are told that the moon reflects about 14% of the sun's light, and yet the light from the moon has completely opposite properties of the light from the sun. So I think it is safe, at least in my mind, to conclude that the moon gives off its own light. It is not a reflection of the sun at all. It goes through its 8 phases in a 28-day procession, regardless of whether it's day or night, regardless of the position of the sun. That makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. To me, it's in complete agreement with the Bible. But whether you want to believe the Bible is correct or not, you can't deny at this point, with any reasonable facsimile of thought, that the official story of how the phases of the moon are created, and how lunar eclipses are created by any natural movement of celestial bodies, you got to throw it out. That's done with. The last nail's been driven in the coffin. Hang it up. Okay, I want to hear a little bit from Neil deGrasse Tyson, because he just came out with a little short clip on Comedy Central about this rapper, B.O.B., I think is what he goes by, who's claiming that the earth is flat. And he went on his Twitter feed, B.O.B. did, and put a bunch of links, and you can go through, at least last time I checked, every link that he posted on the subject was a dead link. Somebody killed it so nobody could investigate this stuff. Then Neil deGrasse Tyson comes on national television to slam this dude. Now, you got to wonder, if this is such a crazy idea, why would they even have Neil deGrasse Tyson come on? But, hey, I'll let him speak his mind right quick, and then I will interject my thoughts on what he's saying.
All right, listen, B.O.B., once and for all. The earth looks flat because, one, you're not far enough away at your size. Two, your size isn't large enough relative to Earth to notice any curvature at all. It's a fundamental fact of calculus and non-Euclidean geometry. Small sections of large curved surfaces will always look flat to little creatures that crawl upon it.
So, apparently, Neil deGrasse Tyson believes that no one on Earth has the ability to figure out the math for the spherical geometry of the Earth, nor would anybody possibly have the equipment to measure such curvature, except for maybe him, but he's too busy acting like a complete and total jerk. Let me show you how difficult or not difficult this geometry actually is that he's talking about. This isn't rocket science, Mr. Tyson. Look, to calculate the curvature of the Earth, you square the distance in miles and you multiply by 8. That gives you the inches in drop, divide by 12. That gives you the feet in drop. Divide that by 5,280. That'll give you the miles in drop. It's not complicated, and for the people who suck at math, people have already made charts like this where you don't even have to do the math. They have everything listed off to the side, including the trig that you're talking about. So get off your high horse. Maybe you should try actually doing some science with the trig and all of the complex numbers that you seem to think are above everybody else, and show people the curvature of the Earth. You surely have the technology, since you work for NASA, don't you? Instead of being such a smug, absolute jerk about it, why don't you actually show some science instead of dropping a microphone and saying gravity? You disgust me. You disgust me. The problem is this, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's the flat Earth community that is actually taking the spherical geometry of the Earth and going out and doing scientific experiments to prove that the Earth is not a big ball. And you are name-calling. For example, this is the lighthouse at Cape Bonavista, Newfoundland. Its elevation is 150 feet above sea level. It is visible from 35 miles away. The top of that lighthouse should be 490 feet below the visible horizon. Here is the Isle of Wight Lighthouse in England, elevation 180 feet, visible from 42 miles away, should be hidden under a curvature of 996 feet. Here is the lighthouse at Cape Legulas, South Africa. Elevation is 238 feet above sea level. It's been visible from 50 miles away. Should be hidden under a curvature of 1,400 feet. Here is the Statue of Liberty. Elevation 326 feet above sea level. Visible from 60 miles away. The top of the torch should be obscured by 2,074 feet of curvature and hidden below the horizon. Hey, don't get mad at me, Neil. Even Lady Liberty is calling you a liar. So here we have the spherical geometry created by astronomers that is supposed to be an accurate depiction of the curvature of the Earth, and it is being consistently proven wrong. Now, whether the Earth is completely flat or whether the Earth is 100 times or 1,000 times bigger than what they're claiming it is, either way, their numbers are off. Now, I'm supposed to believe these so-called scientists about these astral bodies in the sky, these faraway planets light years away, and that they know all about them. And they can't even tell me the proper geometrical size and shape of the planet that we're supposed to live on? I ain't buying it. But don't let me hold Neil deGrasse Tyson up from calling us stupid any longer. Take it away, Neil.
But this whole thing, it's just a symptom of a larger problem. There's a growing anti-intellectual strain in this country. It may be the beginning of the end of our informed democracy. Of course, in a free society, you can and should think whatever you want. And if you want to think the world is flat, go right ahead. But if you think the world is flat and you have influence over others, as would successful rappers or even presidential candidates, then being wrong becomes being harmful to the health, the wealth, and the security of our citizenry. Discovery and exploration got us out of the caves, and each generation benefits from what previous generations have learned. Isaac Newton, my man, said, if I have seen farther than others, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. I get an amen. Woo! So that's right, B.O.B. When you stand on the shoulders of those who came before, you might just see far enough to realize the Earth isn't flat. And by the way, this is called gravity.
Yes, Neil deGrasse Tyson. It is very, very harmful when people of influence, rappers, super scientists, whoever it is, start perpetuating lies, and especially so-called scientists like yourself who expect people to actually believe your word over the scientific method itself. You need to start doing some science. We're not buying your crap anymore. I know you're a Satan worshiper. I know you're a Freemason because you're in NASA. You're their mouthpiece. I know. Bold claim. That's for me to say that Neil deGrasse Tyson is a sun-worshipping, Satan-worshipping, pantheist, Gaia-worshipping piece of crap is a pretty bold choice here. But if he is indeed a representative of NASA, I can't imagine him being anything else. Let's take a look at some information that might clarify and justify my claims. Whoa, nice vest, Neil. Love the Masonic sun. Way to Satan worship, big guy. Very cosmopolitan. Oh, the suns are a little smaller on the tie than on the vest. Trying to cut back on your Satan worship a little bit there, Neil? Probably not. So what makes me think that Neil deGrasse Tyson is a member of some Masonic satanic cult? And more importantly, what makes me think that Freemasonry is a satanic cult? Well, it's kind of hard to miss the prominent Masonic figures who have been seen with Masonic rings in official NASA photos and performing Masonic rituals as well. Here's another Freemasonic ring. And here we have a Freemasonic NASA postcard of Buzz Aldrin. And here's Neil Armstrong, Freemason, and Shriner, which is a branch of the Freemasons. Well, here is a Freemasonic commemorative coin claiming that good old Buzz Aldrin put Masonic flag on the moon when they pretended to land on the moon. It's a shame they didn't have anybody pretend to take a picture of it when they did that, but that's the story. Well, I could spend a near infinite amount of time showing the connection between Freemasonry and NASA, but I think it's time that I get to the point about them being Satan worshipers. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Albert Pike, a Confederate general during the Civil War. He is the only Confederate general to be honored by a statue in Washington, D.C. There was a big hullabaloo to take this statue down after the shootings in, I believe it was Columbia, South Carolina, when they raised all that cane and got the Confederate flag taken down. But you will notice that Albert Pike's statue is still sitting there, and you better believe that that's not going to change anytime soon. The reason that no one has to worry about Albert Pike's statue being taken down is because he wrote this book, Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, prepared for the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree for the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States and published by its authority. It is an esoteric book for Scottish Rite use only, to be returned upon the withdrawal or death of recipient, but in this case it got leaked onto the internet about 10 years ago and is available for download in PDF form. The people who published this PDF version of Morals and Dogma decided to put a quote from inside the book to put on the very first page as an opener. For any of you who do not know who Lucifer is Satan. I'll read the quote now. Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light, and with its splendors intolerable blinds feeble, sensuous, or selfish souls? Doubt it not. Okay, I'll point a couple of little things out here. This first paragraph, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but hey, you'll notice they got Apollo. Pure mathematics is mentioned. They like to deceive with their mathematics. They can hide a lot of stuff in that. I'll start the quote here, though. The true name of Satan, the Kabbalists say, is that of Yahweh, reversed. For Satan is not a black god, but the negation of God. The devil is the personification of atheism or idolatry. Did you get that? Atheism is Satan worship. They created it. It's not the lack of religion. It is a satanic religion that is driving Christianity out of the schools and courthouses and everything else. So keep that in mind. I'll begin the quote of the next paragraph. For the initiates, this is not a person, but a force, created for good, but which may serve for evil. It is the instrument of liberty or free will. They represent this force which presides over the physical generation under the mythological and horned form of the god Pan. Thence came the he-goat of the Sabbat, brother of the ancient serpent, and the light-bearer or phosphor, of which poets have made the false Lucifer of the legend. Did you catch that? Remember when I said that these people were pantheists? They're talking about the worship of the horned form of the god Pan. Yeah, that's right. Okay, listen to this next one. Gold to the eyes of the initiates is light condensed. They style the sacred numbers of the Kabbalah golden numbers, and the moral teachings of Pythagoras his golden verses. For the same reason, a mysterious book of Apuleius, in which an ass figures largely, was called the Golden Ass. As much as you'd probably like for me to elaborate on the Golden Ass, I think I'll just point out the fact that they mention Pythagoras, his golden verses. What was his golden verses? Pythagoras was the one that made the Pythagorean theorem for calculating the curvature of the spherical earth. He was the first Freemason. He was the first one to formally present as a scientific theory that we lived on a globe in a heliocentric universe. Are you getting what I'm saying? His golden verse, this freaking Satan worshiper, Pythagoras, the first Freemason, was the globe. And every single freaking so-called scientist ever since has been a Freemason and or Jesuit that's promoted this globe. These are Satan worshipers who are lying to you, who have been lying to you for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, stacking one lie on top of another lie on top of another lie, and hiding them all in their pure mathematics. Well, hopefully you can see the kind of scum we are dealing with and have been dealing with for hundreds of years, promoting this globe. And their reason for doing it is that this heliocentric model is essentially the exact opposite of the biblical model of creation. And in order to quell anyone's interest in reading the Bible, the best thing to do would be to attack the very first book. So you ingrain in the minds of children ages 5 and up, you pump them full of this, we live on a globe, spinning and hurling through space, the macroevolution lie. You pump all of this at them at a young age, and you carry it with them and reinforce that all the way through school. And when they emerge from the other end, they get out of high school, they may not be able to make change for $1. They can't read an analog clock, but you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to know that we live on a globe spinning in space, and dinosaurs lived millions of years ago, and we evolved from apes, and life came from a mud puddle that lightning struck. all that stuff that really comes in handy when you get out on your own, you know. It's always come in handy for me. Oh, it's a good thing that I knew I lived on a globe. Oh, good thing I knew, I came from a monkey. Boy, I'd have never got that promotion without that. It's worthless information. Worthless information unless you're trying to keep people from the Word of God. Sorry, it's the only reason I can see for it, especially since they're self-proclaimed Satan worshipers. I want to show you the Georgia Guidestones. I mentioned it in my last video, and then I'm gonna get off this soapbox and onto some maps of the flat Earth and maps we're used to, and discrepancies and so on and so forth. But first, the Georgia Guidestones, which were put up in, of course, Georgia. They're called the American Stonehenge. They have a kind of the Ten Commandments of Satan worshipers carved in stone there. As far as I know, there's not any Masonic symbol. Nobody's claimed responsibility for having funded this little project, but being the construction of it, its alignment with the sun, and the planks carved therein, I would say most definitely that there was some Masonic influence in the construction of the Georgia Guidestones. See what you think. And this is a picture of the Georgia Guidestones. And here is what the Georgia Guidestones say. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Well, let's see, there's like 7 billion people now. What's that, like 13 out of 14 people that need to be dead? Yeah, balance with nature. That would be Mother Nature. Gaia, yeah, Mother Earth. That would be the one. Let's see the next one. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Let's see, that would be killing babies, killing the weak. I'm guessing that sounds about right. That sounds about right for these freaking a-holes. Unite humanity with a living new language. Well, if you kill off that many people, there probably won't be one language left anyway. Let's see. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. I'm sure it'd be tempered with their reason, not anybody else's. There'll be one religion, and they'll call it for you. What's the next one? Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Well, that sounds pretty good. After you kill 13 out of 14 people, the rest of them should be scared enough to do whatever you want anyway. Let's see. The next one. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Okay, pick one. Do you rule internally or externally through a world court? That would be a one world government, a new world order, rule internally. Yeah, right. The next one. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Yeah, sure. Yeah, after you go around killing everybody. That sounds really fair. Balance personal rights with social duties. That would mean work more like a worker bee, and you have the right to work like a worker bee until you can't anymore, and then we will kill you. That would be the second plank up there, because we don't need any scum that aren't fit and diverse. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. I'm not sure if they mean Satan or Mother Earth or Mother Gaia, but certainly not God. The last one. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. They're earth worshippers. They're Gaia worshippers. Let's kill off as many people as we can and save Mother Earth. That's the whole religion that they're promoting here. It's no different than pantheism. It's no different than Satan worshiping. It's no different than atheism. It's all the same thing. It's Satan worship. So there you go, carved in stone. That's the agenda. Like it or lump it. Now, I don't want to insinuate that all scientists everywhere who believe and teach the heliocentric model are individually attempting to worship Satan or worship the sun. Every tree hugger out there isn't intentionally worshiping Mother Earth as a god. But if you go back in history, you look at Copernicus, look at his worship of Hermes, a Greek god, also known as the Egyptian god Thoth. Look at Galileo, exact same thing. They're Jesuits. They are Freemasons. As if there's a hair's breadth difference between one and the other, from a theological standpoint, from a secret society standpoint, from a rule by deception standpoint. Historically speaking, if you look up these groups and the Illuminati and the Knights of Malta and all of these little fringe secret societies that are all interwoven and interconnected and in the upper echelons of governments and banking and so on and so forth, you can see the pattern here and the deception that is being put forth. They want to be your God, and in order to do that, in order to rule over you, they have to destroy the creator in your mind, and they have done this so incredibly well with the globe Earth, which is the exact opposite of the Christian description, and literally every religious description of what the Earth is. Understand that for thousands of years, people believed the Earth was flat. For just a few hundred years, we have been told it was a globe. And for less than 50 years, it's been less than 50 years since anybody could get high enough to tell if it was the truth, to look back at the Earth and say, oh, it's round or it's flat. Do you think they'd tell you? Do you really think they'd tell you if they got up high enough and looked down and it was flat and not a globe? And destroy the credibility of the scientific community 100%. Even if it's not a grand conspiracy, I don't believe they would have done it. So, what does our world look like? Well, let's look at what they have told us that it looks like since the 1500s. And then we'll move on to some more modern maps. And then we'll look at what is the standard map that everyone is using. And see what you think. Now, this is the 1569 Mercator map made by Dutch geographer, cartographer, and it was used primarily for seagoing vessels. It is what we been raised on. We've seen it in our schools, our textbooks. This is what we see wrapped around the globe. As you can see, the Mercator map is what we see pictured on all the official NASA images of Earth. 1972 is supposed to be an actual photograph. I think 2015 is also supposed to be an actual photograph. All of the rest of them are composites, supposedly from satellite data. You will notice that in 2012, the United States roughly quadrupled in size, I'd say, but fortunately, by 2013 and 2015, it had shrunk down to a normal size. But the point is, the Mercator map is the one being pictured on all the NASA official photos of the globe that you saw in your classroom. Enter the new kid on the block, the Gauss-Peters projection map. It was introduced in 1973. You'll notice that the landmass in the southern hemisphere, especially Africa, is the most noticeable, being over 10 times the size that it is on the Mercator map. Is in South America much larger as well. You'll also notice that the northern edge of the northern hemisphere is greatly distorted from what we are used to seeing. This scientific community, at least certain members of it, have been trying since the mid-70s to get this map pushed into the schools because it is a more accurate depiction of the size and shape of the land masses. But they haven't had any luck getting this put into the textbooks as far as being the standard that we're supposed to be looking at. And I think there's several reasons for that. But first, let me tell you why they claim the Mercator map is so inaccurate. The claim is that they wanted to stress the importance of the northern hemisphere, so they shrunk the size of the southern hemisphere. Now, personally, I think that it would be rather ridiculous to believe that some Dutch geographer in the mid-1500s would care one way or the other. I believe that their ability to map the oceans and thus the shorelines from the sea was far easier with the sextants of the day to get an accurate depiction, or a reasonably accurate depiction, of shorelines and distances across water, whereas the ability to map land masses from the land across the land with horse and buggy technology was nearly impossible, especially on wide expanses of sparsely populated areas. So, in my opinion, what happened was Mercator took the available data and made his map with the intent of wrapping it around a globe. And so when you wrap it around the globe and it gets smaller below the equator, then something has to give. They didn't know the size of the landmass, so they made the landmass smaller to make the distance across the ocean work out properly. Then the ability to survey land years later, hundreds of years later, comes into play. And now you can't shrink the land anymore. You know what it's all supposed to be. But if you wrap this particular map around a globe, then something's got to shrink. You're either going to have to take away some of the ocean between the land, or you're going to have to shrink the land. And I believe that is why it has never taken off and been taught in the classrooms. You wrap this around a globe, and you're going to see real quick that it doesn't fit without removing vast amounts of oceans, which we know exist between those land masses. So the problem with this map is it won't fit on a globe. And of course, in 1972, the first so-called photograph from Earth depicts a Mercator map. So a year after they supposedly take a picture of the globe, they find out that all the land masses are wrong. Well, they've already released that picture to the public. How are you going to switch now? You can't do it. You have to stick with the old mid-1500s map that's been wrapped around the globe for 500 years, and you just brush this one under the carpet. But notwithstanding, this isn't the standard that is used. This isn't what we are told, or what is being used, rather, by airlines and naval vessels and even the United States Geological Survey. They don't use this map. They don't use the Mercator map. There's a completely different map that they use. And, well, let's take a look at the standard map of the world. So what is the standard map that everyone seems to be using? It's called the Gleason's Azimuthal Equidistant New Standard Map of the World. It was made in 1892. As you can see, the ice ring that would normally be considered the South Pole encircles the map. And so, therefore, anyone who asks the silly question, why wouldn't you fall off? Well, you've got like a 200-foot ice wall and then 300 plus miles of frozen nothingness between there and whatever it is beyond that point. I've got a couple other maps to show you real quick, and then I'm going to show you a couple of things that I believe will convince you that this is indeed the standard map that everyone is using. Here is an old Air Age map for the world. Naturally, if you read the fine print and look at the little inserts here and there, they say, oh, don't forget, you're really on a big ball. But seriously, can you imagine a more inaccurate map south of the equator than this one? I mean, any map would be a better rendition, unless, of course, the Earth is flat and not a globe. Here is a 1945 strategic air map of the world. This was a military map. You notice the straight lines for both air and probably shipping as well. Naturally, there are disclaimers in the corners. Oh, yeah, don't forget you live on a big ball, but use this map because all the distances are correct. This is essentially the base map that the Gleason map seems to be based on. This map was made by a gentleman named Al Biruni, or at least a map very similar. He was a Turkish geographer, cartographer, scientist who lived 1,000 years ago when everyone believed that the Earth was flat. In case you think that the flat Earth map I've been showing you might look a little bit familiar, well, it just happens to be the map that the United Nations chose to represent the world. Isn't that interesting? Do you see those lines there that are dividing that map up? Yeah, remember at the start of the Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike? He was a 33rd degree Freemason, the highest level of Freemasonry. Do you really think that United Nations map is divided into 33 sections by accident? Or do you think they're covertly trying to tell us something? Okay, that's enough conspiracy theories and Satan-worshipping Masonic theories. Let's dig into some meat and potatoes here. This is NASA reference publication 1207, circa 1988. Derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. Now, you can scroll down through this, and there's tons of math and explanations and all the chapters and all kinds of good stuff. And you would think, being NASA, the perpetrators of the big blue marble, that you might be able to figure they would be, I don't know, figuring this aircraft to go around a spinning ball. But let's read the concluding remarks. This report derives and defines a set of linearized system matrices for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Both generalized and standard linear system equations are derived from nonlinear 6 degree of freedom equations of motion and a large collection of nonlinear observation measurement equations. I'll stop right there. I think we've heard all we need to hear with this, that all of this stuff, all of these equations, this model that they're coming up with is an aircraft designed to fly in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Now, why in the world would the makers of the big blue marble, that painting they call Earth, why would they be figuring anything, designing anything to fly in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth unless we live on a flat, non-rotating Earth with a stationary atmosphere? I think that's pretty compelling evidence. But I have a little more. I do have a little more. Okay, this is the Universal Planisphere Complete Guidance and Computer System. Patent 1975. Although NASA's logo is not stamped all over it, it is a NASA patent. Essentially what this device is a flat Earth map with a domed star chart over top of it with various dials and viewfinders and whatnot to align with stars so that people in aircraft can calculate their altitude and their location on the map so they can find out where they are. Now, fortunately, I archived this particular page several months ago because all of the patent citations are now missing from the website. But as you can see, the Alexander Gleason 1893 flat earth map is what is used for this computer guidance system. Also notice, this will become pertinent here in just a few minutes, the 1894 astronomical chart that they're using. There's also some citing patents all the way up to 2010, where they are using this compact celestial navigation device. So, for purposes of designing aircraft and navigation, NASA uses a flat earth map. They use a dome structure for celestial navigation in their computer planisphere invention. Isn't that interesting? Now there is something that I wanted to point out, and it had me puzzled, and to a degree it still does. The fact that a 24-hour day, we think that the Earth just turns 360 degrees. And this is weird. Let me explain. Let's say you've got the sun here, and you've got the Earth here. My finger will be noon, pointing towards the sun. Well, if the Earth is not orbiting the sun, it's not a problem. 360 degrees, it's noon. 360 degrees, it's noon. However, 6 months later, it's 360 degrees. That same 360 degrees is going to be in the middle of the night. So, I looked this up trying to figure out what's going on. And they say, oh, well, in 24 hours, the Earth, in relation to the sun, actually turns 361 degrees. Actually, it's a little off, so that for the 365-day year, noon is always pointed straight towards the sun. Now, okay, I can go along with that, but the stars also rotate a full rotation every 24 hours, or so I thought. It's actually, they say it's 23 hours and 56 minutes, roughly 4 minutes off, because the stars actually do a 360 degree day, whereas in relation to the sun, it's a 361 degree day. Now the problem is that the stars in relation to the sun are going to lose 1 day precession per year. That 4 minutes off is going to multiply during the course of the year. But that means that in 182.5 years, let's say, let's just round it down to 180 years, the star fields are going to be backwards from what they were 180 years before. So they'd be 90 degrees off in 90 years, 45 degrees off in 45 years, 20 degrees off in 20 years, yet these stars and the known constellations have been used as navigation tools and even as clocks by by sailors of years gone by, and even in the planisphere, these known stars and constellations in NASA's invention seem to be considered a constant, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. I've looked through. I just can't find anything to really reconcile this. They muddy it up with numbers and gobbledygook that just doesn't pan out in the long run. So keep that in mind. Also, another thing about the stars that gives me pause is that we know that Polaris, the North Star, stays directly over the North Pole, even though the Earth is supposed to be tilted, even though the Earth is supposed to be going over 186 million miles out of reckoning to that North Star, and they say, oh well, it's 463 light years away, 2 quintillion miles. You'd never notice the parallax. I think that's, considering that we are in a constantly expanding universe, so they say, where the Milky Way is supposed to be traveling at near the speed of light. It just doesn't make any sense that all of these, that this North Star stays constant year in and year out throughout history. They'll say, oh well, 2,000 years ago it was another star, but there's no evidence for that. That's just them spewing out the top of their head speculation. So another thing that doesn't make sense with the stars. The sun's here. The Earth is here. So everything on this side of the Earth would be dark and you could see stars. And if you move it to where the Earth is over here, then everything over here is the dark part where you can see the stars. Yet we see the same stars all year round. We don't see a completely different set of stars from each side of the Earth. It just doesn't make sense. So other than the Earth measuring flat, other than the sun and the stars not being coordinated with what we all know is a 24-hour day, historically speaking, sun, stars, whatever, it's a 24-hour day. Other than, the moon, it's not, it doesn't seem to be reflecting the sun's light. So other than the Earth measuring flat, the moon being completely out of whack with what they tell us causes the phases of the moon and the lunar eclipses, the 24-hour day with the sun and the stars. Other than that, the globe model works fine if you discount everything that we can actually see. And that's just, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous to continue to believe in this global heliocentric model. Oh, did you hear the latest news? They detected gravity waves. Wow, gravity waves. Supposedly, it was like 1.8 billion years ago or something ridiculous. Long ago and far away at a time before time, 2 black holes merged, and when they did, it made this big gravity wave, and it went through the universe, and after over a billion years, we set this machine up, and it picked up the gravity wave. Ooh, boy. Oh, and you can actually listen to the gravity wave online, and I watched a little scientific presentation. Oh, it was ridiculous. Oh, this isn't a Hollywood production. This is a real scientific cartoon that we made to show you how all this happened. No pictures, no nothing. We've got this antenna array set out here to pick up gravity waves from black holes colliding billions of years ago, but we can't detect a gravity wave, any kind of gravity wave from the Earth beneath us, the moon that's supposedly sucking the tides up as it goes all the way around the Earth. We can't detect a gravity wave or any measurable, detectable force from the sun or anything else that was supposed to be holding us in orbit, these billions and billions of pounds and pulling and thrusting. But I'm supposed to believe that you picked up a gravity wave from billions of years ago. Oh, and this proves Einstein's theory. This proves gravity in Einstein's theory. Here in 2016, they come up with crap like that. Crap like that. Just happens to be when everybody realizes that Einstein's full of crap. The Michelson-Morley experiment and the Satanic experiment proved that the Earth is stationary. It disproved Einstein's general theory of relativity because the theory failed for the acceleration of light through the ether. The Satanic experiment proved there was ether, a substance that the light had to travel through in a vacuum. You pull a vacuum on an alarm clock and the sound will stop. But if it's in a clear jar, the light goes right through. There has to be some medium for that to happen. And the Satanic effect is used in the laser fiber optic gyroscopes used for navigation in aircraft, Navy ships, rocket ships. It's all proven it's usable. It's usable science, whereas Einstein's theory is just nothing. It's just nothing. So they're telling you right there, 2016, we still haven't proved Einstein's theory of general relativity. We still haven't proved that gravity exists, and then the proof that they offer is some imaginary black holes billions of years ago. Oh, listen to the gravity. You can find it online. Listen to the gravity. Are you serious? Are you serious? They think we're idiots. They think we're idiots. Don't believe this crap. That's not science. That is not science. That is deception, plain and simple. So, let me get off my soapbox. I appreciate y'all listening. I'm gonna leave you with a really cool model of basically what I believe the Earth and the stars and the moon are. I didn't make this model, but I hope you enjoy it. It's really cool. And y'all have a great night. Thanks for watching. Bye.
broken after all. And your heart is broken after all. And your heart is broken after all.
Y'all come back now, you hear?